All that money Hunter Biden got from Ukraine must be drying up, because here we have Joe Biden, the big man himself, crawling out of his crypt to maintain some type of relevance in a disastrous appearance on The View, which I can only assume is some attempt to rewrite history so that he's not remembered as the worst president ever. But before we get these clips, don't forget to like and comment on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
Mr. President, last time you were here was a little over a month before the election, and you had made the selfless and very difficult decision, I'm sure, to step aside. And Democrats were feeling optimistic about the vice president's chances of winning the presidency. But then election night came, and it was like 2016 all over again. Yeah. So why do you think the vice president lost, and were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised, not because I didn't think the vice president was the most qualified person to be president. She is. She's qualified to be president of the United States of America. Right. But I was surprised. I wasn't surprised because they went the route of the sexist route, the whole route. I mean, this is a woman. She's this. She's that. I mean, it really. I've never seen quite as successful and a consistent campaign undercutting the notion that a woman couldn't lead the country, and a woman of mixed race. Yeah. And they played that to a fairly well. In addition to that, one of the things happened, if you notice, and I'm going to be shorter, okay? I promise. Okay. She said, "Don't be Joe Biden. Be short."
I said that to him.
Anyway, make a long story short. All kidding aside, think about it. Liberal democracies all across America, all across the world lost last time. Yeah. All across America. I think we underestimate the phenomenal negative impact that COVID had and the pandemic had on people, on attitudes, on optimism, on a whole range of things. So I was very disappointed, and but I wasn't surprised. And the only thing that surprised me is the excess to which they've gone in some of the attacks they've made.
Well, Mr. President, you had previously said that you thought that you would have won. Since then, Donald Trump won all the battleground states and made inroads with almost every major demographic, from working class voters to Hispanic men to black men. Knowing what you know now, do you think you would have beat him?
Yeah, he still got 7 million fewer votes.
Yes.
Okay. A lot of people didn't show up. Number one. Number two, they're very close in those toss-up states. It was it wasn't a slam dunk, and so look, every time I've been on the show, which I've been fortunate to be on more than once. Thanks for having me. Is that we talk? You guys don't focus on as much, and I think it's good on polling numbers. But let me put it this way: he's had the worst 100 days any president's ever had.
Yeah, that's a fact. Well, Mr. President, some have even argued that leaving the race and endorsing your Vice President Harris, over 100 days before the election hampered her campaign. Well, what do you say to those critics?
I say, number one, that there were still 6 full months. She was in every aspect, every decision I made. And so we built the economy from the middle out and the bottom up. The strongest economy in the world when we left. That's not hyperbole. That's a fact.
It was the envy of the world.
We created more jobs in one term than any president has in American history.
Well, let me just follow up with this, because when the vice president was here, I asked her if she would have done something differently than your administration over the past 4 years. And because of all the successes that your administration had, I think her response was, there is not a thing that comes to mind. Now, that answer was weaponized against her. And there has been some reporting that you encouraged her for there to be no daylight between the two of you. First, is that true? And do you think in retrospect that she should have tried to differentiate all the wins that your administration had?
Well, look, first of all, I did not advise her to say that, number one. Like I said, I was vice president. I understand the role, number one. Number two, I think she was talking about wouldn't have changed the successes we've had, not opposed to that we wouldn't change anything at all. She has to be her own person, and she was. And so I think that was used in a way that is contrary to what she meant by when she said that. And I think that she was part of every success we had.
Oh my goodness, the amount of gaslighting coming out from The View here is palpable, right? Notice the first question they ask him. When you selflessly dropped out of the race, do you think that hurt Kamala Harris's chances, right? It was not a selfless act for Joe Biden to drop out. He was behind in all of the polls. And of course, the debate between him and Donald Trump just put the final nail in the coffin, okay? But of course, Joe Biden's claim that, oh, I probably would have won because I got more votes against Donald Trump the first time. Yeah, we all know that totally happened. But of course, here's the problem. Here's the reality. Notice the final polling against Donald Trump, and this is the aggregates, the averages across the board, was more than 3%. All right. Joe Biden was on track to lose the election handily, right? And Kamala Harris, by the way, did not perform any better than that among the swing states, right? Everything between 1% and 4% was a loss for her across the board. And as was pointed out there rightly by Alyssa Farah Griffin, is that yes, Donald Trump made inroads across all types of demographics that Republicans don't traditionally win because Joe Biden and by extension Kamala Harris were so awful that all of these groups that, as I said, traditionally don't vote Republican were willing to go for Donald Trump, okay? But notice how Joe Biden says, oh, we underestimated how we managed COVID and the effect that had on the population and the economy. Yeah, you think when you kept everyone locked down, you had mask mandates and indoor mandates, you fired people from the military, and you kept these rules and regulations in place months and years beyond what other countries were doing? Yeah, people tend to remember that because when you ruin their lives, it tends to stick around in their brains, okay? But of course, the pièce de résistance is, what's the real reason Kamala Harris lost? Oh, it's because she's a woman and a racial minority, right? That's why Kamala Harris lost. No, it wasn't. It was because there was no daylight between you two, okay? And when Joe Biden tries to gaslight that answer, right, she didn't actually say that. No, Sonny Hostin was the one single-handedly responsible for sinking Kamala Harris's campaign, aside from herself, I suppose. Remember this?
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
But beside not being able to disagree and put some distance between herself and one of the most unpopular presidents we've ever had in this country, don't forget that Kamala Harris was the woke candidate. She was the one willing to go out there and say, guess what? If you're an illegal immigrant person who wants to do a transition surgery and you've committed a crime and you're in jail, the taxpayers are going to pay for it.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
Kamala's for they, them. President Trump is for you.
So combine all of this together, and guess what? That's why Kamala Harris lost. And Joe Biden, you were not going to do any better, right? The polling all bears that out. And by the way, when you make the claim that Donald Trump's first 100 days are awful, that Joe Biden himself had the best economy, that Donald Trump also is sinking in the polls, let's come over here to Rasmussen, who, by the way, was very accurate in the 2024 election. They've got Donald Trump right now at a 51% approval rating, right? Imagine that, right? Once all of the tariff panic wears off, people start to realize that, oh, maybe this is actually going to be something positive for the country. And of course, Joe Biden still making those claims about his strongest economy, the most job growth of any president ever. Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you forcibly shut down the country and then reopen, right? You actually gain back millions of jobs. However, all of his supposed job growth, we've done several videos highlighting the statistics that simply so many of these jobs that were created were either government jobs, part-time jobs, or jobs that went to foreign workers, right? Not to American citizens, not full-time. So basically, it was like a net loss almost, despite the fact that, yeah, these jobs are being created. It wasn't helping out Americans. And that's why people felt this general malaise all across the nation that things are not going so good. That, and of course, the rampant inflation and wide open borders. Oh my goodness, we didn't even get to that when Joe Biden sat there and lied for years, saying we have to have legislation. There's nothing I can do. My hands are tied. But it all turned out to be a bunch of garbage. All right. So here we have Joe Biden still trying to lie about the past, which of course is what the left always does. When they lose, they're going to try to rewrite history into something that reflects better on them. But of course, we're going to have long memories this time, and the internet lives forever, and so do these clips. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me.